evening. Thank you for attending. My name is Joanna Innes. I am our district parent mentor. I work with our families that are navigating Solon's special education. I used to be a teacher, and I'm also a mom who has a kiddo with a disability, and I use that experience and help our families just navigate IEPs and 504s or any of the questions that they have regarding anything special ed. You are here attending an open educational seminar. We are so happy to have Barb Safaris here tonight. And also we're gonna be learning about our new transition coordinator. I'm a little pressing buttons here accidentally, I'm sorry about that. But before we do that, I wanna go over a couple of upcoming events that O.P.E.N is going to be hosting. We continue to host our support groups, that's our Comic Coffee Talk. We have them divided by grade bands this year, so our conversations are more developmentally appropriate. Our next one coming up is October 6th for our 7th through 12th graders. We did change our location. It is going to be at it's going to be at Panera Coffee on October 6th, so hopefully you can make it. Our next educational seminar in October is regarding medication management with Dr. Ahuja. There is a flyer that is on our O.P.E.N Facebook page, as well as the PTA October newsletters, and it will be in the Facebook pages as well. And that is on October 15th. O.P.E.N has a Facebook page. There's 3 questions to get in because it's a private page, and there are current, up-to-date resources, events, and just articles that might be relevant to you regarding education and special education. So hopefully it would be something that'd be interesting to you to join. So please know that there are resources here to support you so you know you're not alone. And I'm here as parent mentor to help you. I am free. So let me know if you ever need any help. So without further ado, I do want to introduce our new transition coordinator. Her name is Jessie Daly, and she's going to tell you more about what she does.
All right. So I just kind of wanted to get a feel. Who is an elementary school parent? Elementary, okay, middle, high school. Okay, so we're all over. That's awesome. So yeah, that'll be cool for your tools as well. But just a little bit about me. So I grew up in Youngstown, so I'm not local. I'm not from the Cleveland area. I went to college in Pennsylvania. I have my bachelor's in special and elementary education. I taught in Youngstown for 6 years before I moved up here. I was an intervention specialist at Warrensville for a year, and then for the last 5 years, I've been the transition coordinator at Warrensville Heights. So I do have my master's in educational leadership and my transition to work endorsement. Personally, I live in Lakewood. I have a husband. I have a little 2-year-old. So I'm gonna have to apologize ahead of time. I will not be sticking around for questions and answers because I have to go for bedtime. So I'm sorry about that. But I know you guys all understand how that goes. And then that's my husband, Jared. It's funny, some of you might have seen him around because he's actually also in the field. He works for the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, which some of you are also familiar with and will be working with. And he runs the Employment Collaborative of Cuyahoga County. So we actually both work with local businesses and in the area to help implement disability hiring initiatives. So transition is definitely like just a big part of our overall life. This is just my contact information. So if anyone was working with Mary Ellen Simichek last year, she did retire. So I took over her position. So I'm in her old office in the high school. So I'm there every day. My phone number, my email is there. If you need to contact me, all of that's the same as Mary Ellen's. So transition is, a broad topic, but as far as state guidelines, it does have to be added onto a student's IEP by the time they're 14. So around 7th or 8th grade, there will be a new section onto the IEP called the transition plan. And it's my job to help support the teachers, to help support you, to help support the student in creating and implementing that transition plan. Okay? So this is kind of just a flow chart about what that might look like. And it's just very nice. So this transition plan should not be an isolated part of the IEP. It shouldn't be this weird other section that all of a sudden we kind of like glance over and we talk about. It should be embedded into the entirety of the IEP, okay? So if we have a transition goal of going to college, we should see that reflected throughout the entirety of the IEP. So that's why I like this flow chart, is if we see a change in any of those, then we really should see a change in the IEP, and all of this should flow nicely together, and it should all just make sense. And we should also see it continuously be assessed and updated. So I know we were just talking about like a 7th or an 8th grader who it's their first time with the transition plan. It's probably very exploratory, right? I'd like to be a video gamer. I want to have a YouTube channel. I want to play professional football. Cool. Very exploratory. Now, as we move 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we'd like to see that get a little bit more specific and like a little bit more detailed, okay? So just generally, these are kind of the steps that you would see as we're going through our transition planning process. So you guys all know the future planning part of the IEP, right? It's that big picture. What does the family want for their student? What does the student want for their life, right? But as we start to get older and we start to go through the transition planning process, we're really thinking about, you know, not only our life at school, but our life after school, okay? And then you'll start to see some transition planning as far as some transition assessments are now being done. These could be formal and informal, so they're typically done by either myself and also your student's interventionist will do some of these as well. And then from those assessments, we'll start to create some goals. So we'll have goals in 3 areas. We'll start talking about education and training. We'll start talking about employment, and we'll start talking about independent living. So those are the 3 areas that you'll see. We'll have activities to support reaching those goals. Their course of study should match what our goals are. So again, if we're looking at a student who is college bound, we'd like to see them in college courses. Okay, so then we want to look at what are our annual goals academically, and then we can coordinate with any of those adult agencies that we need to provide some additional supports to what we already do in school. So that's just a little graphic that I included so that, again, you can kind of see it should just all flow very nicely together. It should all make sense. Nothing should be done in isolation. When we're thinking about transition, we definitely want to think of it as school to adulthood, not just from school to work. So we want to think about a well-rounded life. So we want to think about where are we going to live? Who are my friends going to be? Recreation and leisure opportunities, like all these things to fill our time. We were talking about this a little bit before too. By the age of 14, we really need to see our students at their IEP meetings. Okay, it can be uncomfortable, okay? It's not fun for them, they don't always enjoy it, but it's so important for them to not only be a part of the planning process, but really start to drive that process. Because like I said, by their 11th, 12th grade year, I want them to really not only just be sitting at their meeting, but really be driving that meeting. Okay, they need to be talking about what accommodations work for them in the classroom, what are their goals, how are we gonna reach their goals. So it really does need to start around the age of 14, and that can look with whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to have certain conversations before with the intervention specialist, before inviting your student in, absolutely. But I think it is important that they are at least there, they're present, and they know what's in their IEP. This is just kind of what it would look like in the IEP document itself, just so you're a little bit familiar if you haven't seen one yet. That would just be what a section of a transition plan would look like. So that was just kind of my really brief overview because I'm just the opening speaker today. But if you have any like specific questions, right, please reach out to me. Again, my email, my phone is up there. I also do have a transition website. So if you search me in the staff directory on the school website, you can just go ahead and pull up my website. Obviously, like it's very general topics. If you'd like more information specific to your student, please feel free to just reach out to me. But that's kind of my spiel right now. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the invite.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm gonna pass it to you.
Thank you. All right.
So hopefully everyone received and picked up, thank you, one of these agendas. This will be very helpful for you, especially after you go home. It has Jesse's PowerPoint that you just viewed at this first QR code. The PowerPoint that you're about to see from Barb is the second one. And then she has some resources that we did not print out because you're going to learn there is a lot of components to charting the life course. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Barb. We're going to kind of hold off on questions because there is so much to charting the life course. Maybe she'll answer your question during the presentation. We do have a QR code on the agenda. If there is something specific that is specific to your child, we ask that you use the QR code. But if you have a general question that would be helpful for everyone, please feel free during Q&A to ask that. So without further ado, Miss Barb.
All right. So, thank you. My name is Barb Seferis. You have my contact. Again, if you think of can you all see the screen? Because I tend to pace. So if I get in the way, let me know. You have my contact information. Feel free, if you think of questions, as Joanna said, please, please, please submit them, but you can also email them to me. So I work for the Family Resource Network of Ohio. That is located in the Ohio State University at the Nysonger Center. And we are the official hub for Charting the Life course. We have a website. Please go to our website. We have lots of resources. But also, if you're a Facebook user, we post stories of how people are using Charting the Life course every week on our Facebook page so that people can see how parents are using, how people with lived experience are using the tools, how professionals are using them. And I work through 2 grants, one from the Department of Developmental Disabilities, one from the Department of Education and Workforce. So all of our presentations are without cost. We also provide lots of webinars that are also without cost. You can sign up, go to our website, frnohio.org, and there's a pop-up when you go to the page and it'll say, do you want to sign up for notifications? We send out notifications on all of our presentations. You know, we might be doing one just on employment, planning for employment, one on respite, not the service, but how we all as families need to take a break, one on transition. So please, please go to both our website and our Facebook. I retired from the Cuyahoga County Board. I had a variety of roles. I worked there for 36 years. Next year, it'll be 50 years that I've worked with families and people with disabilities. Oh my gosh. But my life experience is when I was 4, my brother was diagnosed with a developmental disability. And even though there were no public services, we had home-based services from the time he was diagnosed at 6 months. And it was from the achievement centers in Cleveland. I was a licensed speech-language pathologist, and I worked as an SSA. Many of you have an SSA from Cuyahoga, a support administrator. Yeah, yes, some of you do. Good, good. So I've worked in the field for a long time. Plus, my middle brother, Jim, in his 30s, was in an accident. So he had an acquired disability. It affected his ability to earn a living and also to get through his days. So I am a sibling. So let me talk a little bit about Charting the Life course. Have any of you heard of Charting the Life course? Oh, good. An intro. Joanna has, yep. She's attended some sessions with me. So I'll give you an introduction, and that is what it is, but I want to go over some commonly used tools that you can use with your sons and daughters to help them prepare for the IEP process, to help them have, think about things before they go into that meeting, and to have a voice. I saw some of the questions you submitted when you registered. Somebody said, how do I have conversations with a teenager who doesn't want to talk? Well, hopefully I'll give you some tools that you can have some of those conversations or have them do it themselves. And also, how do I help? Some people were saying before we started that, sometimes people don't like to go to their IEP meetings because it talks a lot about what you can't do. And so we want to flip that and give the students tools that they can use to talk about who they are as wonderful people that we love. We may not like them every day, as I always said as a sibling. I love my brothers. I may not like them every day. And that they can use. So we talk about a trajectory in charting the life course, and all that is the path you want for your life. So you see the arrow on top goes to what we want. We want people and families, professionals to know about charting the life course. Use the tools. I've had a lot of the SSAs from Cuyahoga County attend. I've had staff from other entities that support families attend. We really want people across the service systems to know about charting the life course, so that as a family, you don't hear one set of words, and then you go somewhere else and you hear another set of terms, and you're like, is that the same as, or is that different? And what we don't want is that people just see what you have in front of you as, oh gosh, it's another form to fill out. But you truly see the value. Our core concept is we want everybody to have the life they want, not just people with disabilities, but everybody, okay? We especially value the family's perspective because we know that families provide most of the support to people with disabilities. So we want people with disabilities to have that civil right of self-determination, which is control over decisions affecting your life. I don't mean that they make them on their own. How many of you make all your decisions all by yourself? No, no, you talk to people, right? You talk to your family, you talk to people you trust, you talk to friends who maybe have similar experience. But we want everybody to know they can have control over decisions. We want students to know they can talk to their parents, maybe their siblings. I mean, there was times when Nick would say, I want to talk to you, not mom. Okay, but that's what siblings do, right? We talk to each other. We don't have the same perspective as parents. But we also want families to be supported that recognize our strengths and that the support enhances and supports our strengths so we can turn around and take care of the people we love. I'm going to keep going. So it's about having different conversations, and that's what the tools in front of you, I hope, will help you do. We want people to, we want to encourage high expectations. So I love that Jesse said the outcomes that I've heard so much from students. I want to be a gamer. I want my own TikTok, I want my own YouTube channel. I want to be a TikToker. And that's, how many of you are doing what you said you wanted to do when you were 12, 13, 14? Anybody? You, yeah, are you?
Before, when I was a teacher.
Okay. And I told my 4th grade teacher I wanted to be a speech therapist. And she said, oh, honey, do you know what that is? And I said, yes, I do. So there are a couple of us. But most people, you think you want to do something and then you take math and you go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. If I have to take math, I'm not going to do that. And we also want to encourage high expectations. So we never want to say, no, you can't. But what do you need to do to get there? And because we don't know, lots of accommodations. And you can use these tools in front of you with anybody. I don't know if all of your loved ones use words to communicate. If they don't, it's okay, because you get the information from people's actions and from the people who know them best. And I was a licensed speech therapist for 45 years. I never met anybody who did not tell us what they wanted, what they didn't want, what they liked, what they didn't like. Never met anybody, and never met anybody who somebody who knew them couldn't tell me. So you may not be able to sit across the table from your loved one, but I bet that if they don't use words to communicate in any fashion, signed, written, spoken, communication device, but you can get the information. For example, my mother had a stroke. She had dementia, so did my partner. They could no longer, well, my mother could no longer talk. And yet I knew what she liked, what she didn't like, what she wanted, what she didn't want. She let me know very clearly. So we have 8 principles, but I'm going to move ahead to one of the tools that I love. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about siblings. If any of you have your sons or daughters' siblings are older, over 18, there's also a closed Facebook group for adults who are siblings of any disability. It doesn't matter. It's called SibNet. Oh, it's down in the corner. Please share that with any of your kids that are adults. SibNet. There are a couple of questions. It's a closed Facebook group, which means we can't just go and like it. But there are about 5,000 adult siblings on that Facebook page from all over the world, actually. And it's a great support for siblings. You know, whether your adult siblings or you're 18 and older talk with you, you know, we've already, as kids, we already thought about what happens if mom and dad can't. So we've already thought about that. We've already thought about who's going to be, who's going to do. So it's a great place where people can actually talk with each other. You got 3 tools. We asked you to take 2 copies of some of them so you can write on them as I go through them, but you'll have a clean copy to take home. But they're all also on the internet. So take out the one-page description. We were talking before about, you know, how let's prepare people to be part of their IEP process. So yes, it's take out the blank. It's, you also have one that's got like guidance, like what goes in each section. So when you go home, you've got like a cheat sheet. But take this one out. On the top right, there's a square for a photograph. Why do we encourage you putting a photograph on this? Because our family members have lots of words written about them, right? What's the first set of words that is typically spoken when someone introduces our loved one? Their name, oh, I hope. You know, when I ask families, they will not tell me names. They start with the sentence with, my son or daughter is 13 years old, lives at home, has autism, and goes to special classes. And I'm like, well, that's great, but what didn't you tell me? The name. So I hope we use the name. But also, if there's a photograph, it makes the person real, and it's not just a bunch of words. So I love showing pictures of Nick. If you think about any of the pictures you saw, there's one of the 2 of us in front of the rock hall. I just think that's one of my favorite. And then, of course, when he's sitting on Santa's lap and he's not happy. After we saw Mr. Jingling. So if any of you are of the generation, yeah. The top section is called What Do People Like and Admire? So these are qualities, not what they do. You know, they may be a swimmer, but that's what they do. They swim. They're a swimmer. But what's inside of them? And I ask people, what's inside of you? What's the quality that makes you a swimmer? Are you athletic? Are you competitive? What's your quality? So throw out qualities of your loved one. Tell me what you like and admire, well, what you love about your son or daughter. Oh, there better be some things. Just throw them out if you're comfortable. Yeah.
How social he is.
Okay, he's social. What else?
Inquisitive.
Say it, inquisitive, I heard. Okay, what else? Creative. I love it. I love it. Now, what a better way that they can prepare themselves to introduce themselves at their team meeting. I'm creative. I'm social. I'm athletic. Maybe loving, kind, whatever. You have a whole bunch of qualities on the screen. This is, I find that this is a question people often can't answer, and we have to almost tell them, I think you are, because we often don't tell people their qualities that we admire. We usually talk about what they do. So we asked a group, I didn't, another ambassador, her husband is a high school principal. And he and the counselor at their school asked a group of their high school students, what do people like and admire about you? Look at this, I make people laugh, I cheer people, I'm a hard worker, I'm respectful to teachers, I'm worth something. I mean, that just totally blows me away. I'm worth something. The second section is what's important to your loved one. And by important, I'm not talking about likes and preferences. I know in the IEP we talk about O.P.E.Ns, preferences, interests, needs, and strengths. I'm talking about what's so important to them that if it's missing, their quality of life is impacted. So what's important to me is always to have water when I present. Always, always. What's important to me is to always have my watch on and to monitor my steps, et cetera, et cetera. What's important to me when is to have my own coffee. Not coffee from Starbucks, not coffee from anywhere else, but the coffee I brew at home. It's so important to me that when I travel, I pack a 4-cup coffee maker with my thermal mug and my own coffee grounds, because I don't like it from anywhere else. So what's important to your son or daughter? We talk about 8 areas to consider. Relationships, so who's important to them? Is one of the siblings more important than another? Or do they have a close friend or maybe a grandparent that they're very, very close to? Who are they close to? What are their rituals and routines? Do they have to come home and do something right away? How do they decompress? What do they do before they go to bed? What do they do when they get up in the morning? What are the things that they like to do or places to go? And then we're tapping into, is it important to them to go to a faith-based activities? Is a sports event? Rhythm and pace. Are they morning people? Are they slow? Or are they get up and go, go, go? I'm more of a morning person. Usually by 7, 8 o'clock when this ends, I'm usually in jammies. So I'm out of my routine right now. Status and control, what makes them feel important? A lot of times people will tell me they have their own money, they have a job, they help. That's a big one, I help. I help my family, I help at church, I help. Things to have, purpose and meaning, and culture and identity. So is there anything that is important to them about their culture and identity? I grew up in a Greek American home. When I did this with Nick, and I'll show you, it was very important to him that when he was very ill that he saw the Greek Orthodox priest. That was critical. Not the hospice chaplain, the Greek Orthodox priest. So is there anything that's really important to them? This is what some high school students said. Going on a run when I'm stressed. Having alone time. Okay? Making mom and dad proud. Oh. Sometimes you learn so much about someone by what they write, right? To relieve situations with humor. Support ones who support me, doing my best, my health, and being successful after high school. Those are all the things they self-identified important to them. The third section is how to best support me. So at 14, I'm so glad you put that blurb about transition. part of the transition process is that students are supposed to be learning the accommodations they need to be successful in school and beyond. So how to best support me is not about them. How to best support me is what other people need to do to support them. So one young lady, I love her, she has a job, and she wanted her boss to know, when teaching me something new, tell me, show me, watch me, and then tell me how I'm doing. I said to her, you do not need a job coach, because you just told your boss what you need, okay? It's not, I can't remember. It's not, I can't sequence. It's not whatever the deficit would be. It's, this is how you need to help me. Follow the behavior support guidelines. Don't tell me what to do. Give me at least 2 choices. Anybody got a family member like that? If you say you need to, you know you're going to have a fight. But if you say you want to do this or this or this, there's more, life will be better for everybody, right? But I think that's probably positive for all of us. We don't like to be told you need to. You should. Remind me to wear headphones. We all know why that's there. But if you say somebody has a sensitivity to light or noise, what's somebody supposed to do? We can't quiet the world, but I can remind somebody to put their headphones on. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. That was my brother's. He never weighed more than 70 pounds. He was 45 when he passed away, and people would look at him and think he was a child because he was so small. He was a small man. So he would say, don't talk to me like I'm a child. I'm old enough to be your father. Here's how some of those students identified how to support them. Help me when I need it. Listen when I talk. Give me time to recharge. Don't shove off my goals or say I'm too ambitious. Give me info to do research. I like this one. Make classes more interesting. I'm sorry, I just thought that was. Don't get mad when we're not happy. I have bad days. And be there for me. You know, what I learned in my career is, you know, when someone got upset, we were always jumping in their face. What's wrong? What's wrong? Tell me, tell me. If you're upset at home, how do you respond when someone says, tell me what's wrong? You're like, leave me alone. Give me a minute. So, oh, I love this. Please encourage me that it's okay to stop pushing myself too hard or to stop trying to please everyone. You have these slides on the, you can access them in the QR code. Be there to check on me sometimes. Let me come to you about the problem. Don't force me to talk about it. So again, this is a way to help your sons and daughters identify the accommodations. It could be, give me directions in writing. It could be, use videos. It could be, I don't know what. Anybody got any ideas what your son or daughter, what accommodation would work best for them? If I'm walking in your house and you're leaving, what do you want me to know? That's what I tell people. Give me the 2-minute drill. I'm walking in, give me 2 minutes. What do I need to know?
Extended wait time for a response.
Okay, extended wait time. Give me time to think. And don't ask me, well, right? Because that'll probably, anything else? So helping the student to identify this. We have found that people using this to introduce themselves at their meetings, whether it's an IEP, ISP, if you have an SSA, a support administrator from Cuyahoga, it can switch the flavor of the meeting immediately. Because all of a sudden we're starting by talking about who is this human being. In fact, what we want to see is that this one page is a human-centric description. So here you have my brother's. The picture he wanted was in a convertible. He liked cars. It's not his sister's convertible. It was a friend's, I wish I had a convertible. And please don't use I unless the person said it. And if your son or daughter says something, put it in quotes so people know that came from them. Okay, it's very powerful when it's in quotes. So you see great things about Nick. My mother, until she died in her 90s, would say, your brother was ornery. And I would say to her, Mom, I was the only girl. You think I don't know this? But you see his qualities. Under important too, I tried to capture relationships, things to do, things to have, places to go, our Greek culture, traditions, listening to his music loudly, going to the bar, having his 7-7, and watching the Indians games because he passed before they became guardians. How to best support me. No one has to read how long are your IEPs? How many pages? Yeah, Makes me laugh too. How many?
30 pages.
Yeah.
Like an 8.5.
Do you notice it's one page? One piece of paper. Everyone will read this. People are not going to read a 30-page IEP. If you have an SSA, it might be 60 pages, 80 pages. How to best support me. This is what other people need to do. You see it's in quotes because Nick said it. Feed me, use a spoon. Don't read over my shoulder or listen to my conversations. I can hear and understand you. Don't use a parent voice. You know that parent voice. Hi, Nick. How are ya? It's like, oh, for crying out loud. He's 40 years old. How to put him in bed. Don't give him juice or fruit. People wanted him to eat fruit and juice. His body did not like fruit and juice, and if they forced him, he'd say, don't worry, sis. They'll learn quickly why I don't want it. And I'm most comfortable in my wheelchair. You see, this is Maxwell. He's 3 months old. We write a one-page for a reason. Mom developed this because she was going back to work. On the right, Max is now going to preschool, so it's different. Mom wrote one for preschool, but you see, there's nothing fancy about it. It's a Word doc. She put boxes, it's text boxes. But look at the picture. Isn't he cute? I mean, really, that's why we put the photo. This is Liam's. This is only for medical appointments. He's deaf and blind. And so how to best support me? Let me touch the stethoscope. Let me handle anything you're going to use with me before you touch my body. This is Tyler's. I love this one. Why? Because everybody knows how to start conversation with Tyler. You don't have to read an IEP, okay? Just start talking about dinosaurs. This is Elizabeth Kate. This is like the front page of her plan. People told her it's hard to read this. The font isn't clear. The colors are hard to see. And she told them, it's my one page. I'll do it the way I want. And I thought, okay, we have a self-determined young lady here. So, people, I don't know if any of your loved ones go to the hospital a lot or have difficulty at medical appointments. People can have more than one-page description. I worked with a group of families in Akron right before they went back to school. So the kids were there with mom or dad and their siblings for a couple families. And I said, write it for the new school year. But you can write it for other reasons, like the school bus. And one mom jumped up and said, we got to write one for the bus driver. And I'm like, okay, because that's different than what the teacher needs to know. So you can have more than one. You write it for whatever environment. And if someone is medically fragile, goes to the hospital, write it for the hospital specifically and tape it above the bed. Because everybody in the room, coming in the room, will see it. We've talked to medical professionals about this, and they're like, oh my God, why don't we have this for everybody? Because this is perfect. Again, like and admire, the qualities are going to be the same, but important too is now what's needed in the hospital to make them feel safe. Nick was in the hospital a lot. I was typically there every day, but I would go to work and then I would go to the hospital. And I wrote it the first time and gave it to the nurse in charge, and where do you think it ended up? In the file, which never got seen. And that's why I learned, tape it above the bed, because anybody walking in the room will see it. So things, do they want certain things to have? People have told me they want their Bible, they want their rosary, they want their iPad, they want their own blanket. They want a stuffy, and how to best support. So what do they need in the hospital? What's the best way to give them meds? So this is Nick's. It's the same great things, but now talking to me every day if he has to make a decision. I was not his guardian, but I knew he could talk to me, and I knew he understood, okay? Use a spoon, but now, my brother used a laptop with voice output to communicate. When he was in the hospital, he couldn't access it. So ask me yes, no questions. I can either nod or move my eyebrows. And my brother had a valid yes, no. Some people don't. They'll answer yes to everything, but his sister was a licensed speech pathologist. So a real critical one for him, he couldn't feel pain on his right side. So think about that. What is important in the hospital? You can give me pills and ice cream. That was his dream. So you can write it for many purposes, but the bottom line is the thing to remember. New people, new environments, new experiences. One sibling told me for her 17-year-old brother who was flying to visit their father who lived out of state, she wrote one for the flight attendants. He was on the spectrum, and she said, make sure he has Coke. How to best support him. Make sure he has Coke. Remind him to put his headphones on. Remind him to watch his movies on his iPad. It was a beautiful flight. But again, on the left-hand side, great way to introduce themselves. Here's who I am. Great way, I've had counselors tell me, this is great for self-esteem. I'm going to have all of my students, all of the kids that I counsel do this. And it helps students identify their accommodations. It's not called accommodations, it's how do you want people to help you? Same thing. So we want people to use it. We want people to use it to introduce themselves. We want it to be human-centric. You notice there was nothing on any of them that identified their disabilities. Nothing, okay? And it's developed for a purpose. What we don't want is to include demographic information, whether they have a guardian, all the stuff that we typically fill out on a front page of anything, okay? This is about the human being, not the person who gets services. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is, what is a good life? You have that future planning statement in the IEP. What do you want in the future? Hopefully it's a good life. But let's talk about what a good life is. A good life is that we have dreams. Because if we don't have dreams, all the system is going to give you is what we give you. Okay? A good life is that we have people who believe in us. So that's why we don't want to say to somebody, no, you can't. But why do you want to do that? What's important to you? How can we make that happen? My classic story, so none of you have heard me except Joanna. Classic story, working with somebody who told his job coach he wanted to be a pilot. And people were like, there's no way he could be a pilot. He didn't go to high school, doesn't know math. And people started saying that. And the job coach said, why do you want to be a pilot? Tell me about being a pilot. And he had lived in an institution since he was a small boy. And he said, my dad was a pilot, and I remember going to the airport when I was little. His dad did not fly commercial jets, but small planes. I remember going to the airport and waving to him. And so the job coach said, we have a a county airport in our county. This is somebody who lives over towards Tiffin. And went out to the county airport, said, can I meet the manager? Said, I'm working with someone who likes being around planes, and his dad was a pilot. Are there any jobs here? So it wasn't, no, you can't, but let's see what we can do. He got a job. First, the manager said, no, I don't have any jobs, no. Gave him his business card. Within a month, he got a call, I think I have a job. Of course, it was cleaning, and he said, yeah, the 4 F's, food, filth, flowers, and factory. Yeah, and he said, does he want it? And he goes, I don't know, I'll call him, we'll come out and meet with you. He got the job. He was conscientious, showed up. The pilots loved him because he would talk to them. When are you coming back? Oh, I'll see you then. Where are you going? He eventually was driving the cart that went and unloaded the planes because he was so good. He was around pilots. I would love to think that one of those pilots took him up in his plane because he had developed all these relationships. He was in that community. Was he a pilot? No, but he was with them. We want people to have what's important to them, which is why I asked you, think about what's important to your loved ones. If it's not there in their life, they're not going to have a good life. We all want to have more good days than bad. And we want to feel healthy and safe in our own mind, in our definition. And we want to have control, because that's a civil right. So this is a trajectory. You have one in front of you. It looks like this. But before we get to that, some of you wrote on your questions, how do you talk to a teenager who won't talk about this? So this is the trajectory, keep that in mind, but before we get to that, we're going to talk about the domains. So asking your loved one, what do you want to do when school is over? Or what do you want to be? One question we don't ask kids a lot is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And yet I asked my nieces that constantly when they were little. I remember my one niece told me she wanted to be an astronaut. So what did I do? I took her to the Science Museum. I bought her a kid's telescope. I bought her books on astronauts. Did she become an astronaut? No, she's a PhD psychologist. It's like, what happened to that? But we expose people. It doesn't mean they're locked into that dream, but we expose people to experiences. So here's some people doing their trajectory. It's a vision board. They cut out pictures. But I want to talk about the 6 life domains. So in charting the life course, we talk about life domains. We don't talk about skill areas like you might on the IEP. These are, if someone said to you, do you have a good life? The vision tool has 8. I see you counting. Let me explain. The 6 domains are listed on the vision tool, and the vision tool looks like this. But the bottom 2 things are, what kind of supports might help the family, and what are some integrated supports? And I'll talk about that in a minute. You see in Charting the Life course, we try to make the information user-friendly for all people. So we always have icons. So you see the icons, daily life and employment is a calendar, community living is a house, social and spirituality is a group of people, friends. Healthy living is a smartwatch. Safety and security is a shield. And advocacy and engagement is the person reaching for the stars, speaking up for what they want. But if I ask you, do you have a good quality of life? You're probably not going to tell me I know my math tables. You're not going to tell me that you read at a certain grade level. You're going to tell me, I hope, I love where I live. It's a great community. I like what I do during the day. I have good friends. I feel like I belong. I feel healthy. I try to take care of myself. I feel safe in my community when I go out. With people in other parts of Ohio, I always say I have a car that I feel safe in the winter. People in Columbus are like, huh? People here in Solon, I live in Willoughby, we're all like, yeah, are you crazy? Of course we have a car we feel safe in the winter. And then advocacy, I speak up for myself. I participate in, my community, I vote, whatever it is that you do. These are all interrelated. So think about it. Where you work may direct where you live, or vice versa. Where you live may direct where you work. Where you work may dictate what kind of health care you have because of your insurance. So they're all interrelated. What we like to do is use this tool to have conversations with people and really educate them about when we say, what do you want, what that future planning statement is, think about not only what do you want to be different in the future, but what do you want to be the same? I will tell you that working for the Cuyahoga County Board, I really did not hear people with disabilities talk about moving out of mom and dad's house till they were in their late 20s. How many of you moved out when you were in your teens and went to college? Yeah. When I ask people, where do you want to live, they freak out. I'm going to stay with mom and dad. Okay, if mom and dad are okay with that. So that's why I changed my question to, what do you want to be the same? What do you want to be different? I'm not going to force someone to go have an anxiety reaction to, you need to think about moving out of mom and dad's house. So what do you want to stay the same? What do you want to be different? I like the vision tool because you see the first column has the icons. The second column has a little bit of a description and some questions to think about. What do I want to do during the day? Do I want a job? Do I want a career? Do I want to go to school? The third column is white space. So I've had people draw, I've had people write, I've had people tell and someone scribes for them. The last column is priority. If you want to rank, I don't focus too much on that, but again, it gives you a way to have the conversation. So let me, as you leave, I brought a booklet. We call it a 4-page or a quick guide. This is on transition to adulthood. So you start thinking about transition legally at 14, but you can start thinking about transition earlier than that. But inside, it has the 6 life domains, and it actually has questions for you to think about, or experiences. Do they have chores? Have they volunteered anywhere? Are they helping anybody? Have you thought about where you want to live as an adult? Do you want to live with your parents? Is there anybody you want to live with? Are you thinking of living with a roommate?
This is obviously person-centered, but obviously there are kids that parents need to fill this out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good either which way. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You see at the top of the form it says completed on behalf of. So if it's John and John completes it on himself, it's John on the behalf of John. It could be, what line is first? The person's name?
Yeah.
Okay. Name of person completing could be Mom on behalf of John. And I have had the experience where Mom and Dad have to fill it out separately because they don't agree. And I'm not a family therapist, so I'm like, here, you have your paper, she has hers. And that's okay, because how many families have 100% consensus? Okay, it's okay to be different, because what you do then is you look at maybe what Mom said, what Dad said, what the student says, and you look at where is it the same? Okay, we can start working on that. If there's differences, let's clarify what the differences are and why they have differences, as opposed to you all got to agree. As I tell professionals, do any of you have families, your own family, that agree on everything? Let me just ask you, when you ask the question, where are we going to eat out? That's a real common one. Or what movie should we go to? Or what should we do on Saturday for fun? So, you know, we recognize and value different perspectives. We aren't looking for consensus. On the slide, you see where you can find these tools. LifeCourseTools.com, you go to the tab that says Library, and then down to Foundational Tools. And there are family tools, but that sheet says the person completing it on behalf of. So you don't need a different form. What we want is that families really think about the vision, not just what they want the child to achieve in school, but what do they want after school? I even asked families who were in early intervention, what do you see your child doing at age 25? Because I had to get them out of school, the mind of they're going to go to school. I did a family series. I just finished it, and there was a mom of an 18-month-old, and she goes, I have a vision for my son, and I was like, oh, I want him to walk, I want him to talk. I assumed, and she said, I want him to have a job he likes. He's not going to live with mommy and daddy his whole life, and I want him to have friends. And I said, you make sure you put that on your trajectory, and you make sure that you tell that to your IEP team or your IFSP, your early intervention team. I said, because they need to know you have a vision. And everything they do, then you ask them, how are you helping us get over here? So once you go through the domains and do the vision tool, you can put it on a trajectory. And what a lot of families will do at the IEP meeting is that when they say, what's your future planning statement? They go, here it is. You know, and because meetings are intimidating, you know, and how many people feel like they're on the spot? But if you walk in with this, families have told me it gives me paper power and paper courage. Because I don't have to be on the spot, I've already thought about it. And I've got it on paper, here it is. So you do the vision tool to have that conversation. Maybe you use this Transition to Adulthood booklet, gives you questions to think about. And the trajectory should not be done in the team meeting. You do that at home, in your comfort. Over time, I've had people tell me, we started it, put it aside because it was too much. We needed a break. It's yours. You do it the way you want. Yes?
General question.
Sure.
You gave one example of the mom's vision for the child.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also see where the parents themselves don't see that vision and they see their children as, oh, now my daughter or son is going to be with me throughout their lives?
Yeah.
Do you see like that and you work with the parents then?
I see all different kinds. I see, yes.
Because this resource looks very much focused on the children.
Oh.
What if the parents or caregiver
Yeah.
itself has...
That's why the student, if they can fill it out or tell you and you write it, you fill it out and it's their perspective. You can then fill out it again from your perspective.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would never tell a family you need to think about. I would say right now that's what you see. Let's work on that and then, but always leave it open to, you know, because sometimes people need to see that other people like their son or daughter can do certain things. I can't tell you how many parents I worked with and they were like, wait a minute, I never knew kids could do that. And I'd be like, oh yeah. Well, if they can, why can't my son? I was like, I don't know. Why can't they? So sometimes we need exposure and we need to hear from other people what's worked.
Is this resource available to all different schools in?
We would love it to. No, not unless they ask. But it's available free on the internet. On LifeCourseTools.com. On LifeCourseTools.com. the website.
Okay.
You can find them all. We also have on the Family Resource Network of Ohio, we have about 55 different videos, how to complete each of the tools. Okay? So we have lots of resources. We are happy to talk to any group. So
Yeah, just to keep on my friend, actually I happened to be here, I was not clear, like I personally don't have a disabled child, but I thought this resource is also for how to talk to teenagers.
oh yes,
That's why I answered
yes,
But
yes.
I have friends who have children with disability, and where I am in my life journey, I want to understand people, that different people come with different perspectives
Absolutely.
and things. So I have some friends that I can think
Share.
of that this would be helpful for. So
Share it with them,
thank you.
please. Absolutely. I will tell you, a friend of mine is a professor at Case, and she teaches, she does research on disabilities, and she saw me at church and goes, "What? I heard you worked with people with disabilities." Yes, I did. She said, "I have a class. It's Intro to Developmental Disabilities. Will you talk to my college class?" I said, "Absolutely." So I did a Zoom, and the college students, now 2 of them identified as being on the spectrum. I didn't ask. One clearly said, "I have a sister who has significant disabilities." One was going to be a counselor. One was thinking of going into med school. And they were like, "How come we as college students have not been exposed to this? Because we're in quite a stage of transition in our life." Of course they are, right? They're going to school. What are they going to do when they graduate? Will they have a job? Will they be able to make enough money to support themselves? And they go, "How come this isn't shared with everybody?" The tools are for anybody. I told you, I used them with my mother when she had dementia. I use them in my own life. Now, I may not pull out a piece of paper and write on it because I'm thinking, but it's for all of us. It's for anybody. So thank you for asking. And yes, I'm okay with answering questions that are general like that. So, okay. So I've taken you through, let me make sure I covered you have 2 copies of the vision tool, one for yourself that you maybe wrote on. You can make copies, you can find them on lifecoursetools.com. You have the 1 page and you have the trajectory. So can you see how you might use any of these tools? Anybody thinking I'm going to do this? Yes?
I did have a question.
Yes, please.
So I see there's like a lot of areas to have like really good conversations. I was curious if I kind of like know my kid's attention span is about 20 minutes. That said, how many weekends should we like realistically allow as opposed to like try it and give up,
Whatever works for your family. I'll tell you what one mom did, which I love. She has 2 kids that have special needs. She never sat them down, but they would always be in the kitchen when she was cooking dinner. So she would be cooking dinner and she would just start having conversations. "Really? So what do you think?" Yeah, just having, and she goes, and then I would run, as the food was cooking, I would run to my office and I would write. And she said, after, we had the conversations, then she said to them, they both had IEPs, both of her kids were students. And she said, then I showed them and I said, "This is what I heard you say." And they were just like, how did you do that? Because they never saw her write. They never, but she said, "I just ran and wrote down what they told me." So whatever works.
That's helpful because a lot of people are intimidated by a form.
Yes. Yes. And it's not a homework assignment. You don't have to fill in every square, okay? But and there are families who will tell me, "I don't even want to think about where they're going to live right now. I just want to focus on whatever." I had one mom of a 6-year-old who said, "Barb, he spent 3 months in and out of the hospital last year. I don't care about anything about except healthy living. Keeping him out of the hospital." I said, "Then that's your focus. You don't have to fill it out. This is not a test." And what I hope you'll see is that it's a way to organize your thoughts and record them. You know, it's a piece of paper, whichever way you want to use it. It's a tool, yeah. It's a tool, yeah.
I wanted to share one observation. You talked about alone time and with teenagers. So sometimes as parents, like initially I was concerned. I'm observing that he values his alone time. But as a parent, there's some sense of fear, like what is going on in their head in that alone time. So it's also good to know that it's okay, that, you know, they need that time. And
Think about when you were a teenager.
yes, I think that's a good reflection.
What did you
Well,
do?
wasn't as much things to fill your, like, you
Yes,
just have to talk to each other.
learn.
Like, the
Yeah.
idea of going up to your bedroom and being by yourself and being on a phone for 4 hours, in my mind is like, you're wasting your life. But I think that it just wasn't the option to do that. So there was more communication, or there was, you know, more reading going on, or whatever, because there wasn't the option.
And sometimes there
Cartoons
are
only
things
came out
that are
Saturday morning, so.
that are like culturally, like growing up in India, I had no opportunity to have alone time. You're always surrounded by people. So then I get nervous when my child is doing that. Like, what is going on in their head? What are they thinking about when they're alone? So, but it's good to know that it's his personality. Like,
Yeah.
for me, it was a learning phase as a parent to know that it's their personality sometimes.
Yeah. And you're not going to let them be
Yes.
always alone. Yeah, I mean, but you know, we all need that time aside. I mean, you know, I'm an OG. I told you I worked in the field for 49 years, so you could just guess how old I am. But, you know, I remember being on the phone with my best friend every day, and we went to school together, and my mother would be like, "What are you talking about? Didn't you see each other all day? What could you possibly be talking about?" But you know, you're working through, I don't know if they like me, what do we need to do, you know, and that's normal, you know, that's, how do I fit in, how do I, you know, that kind of stuff. But I laugh, you know, and this was when the phone had cords, and we'd try to walk as far away from mom as you could on the cord. Oh.
That's funny. So that's how I say, like in India, what was US maybe 3 decades ago. I went through that. I come from college, and my friend would call, and it's a corded phone, and my mom would be same thing. You just came home.
Yep.
And she would get home earlier, and I'll get a call.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yep. It's the way it is. So another common tool, once you have a goal, and I didn't bring the form because I really want you to think about the 1 page and the vision and the trajectory, because I think that'll help you prep for the IEP, prep if you have a support administrator from Cuyahoga, prep for those meetings, but also empower your son or daughter to be part of the conversation and have a voice. Whether they want to articulate what's on that piece of paper or whether they just slide it across the table, because that gives them their voice, okay? That gives them control. But once you have a goal, you can always, I have about 5 more minutes? Yeah, okay. If not, just tell me. You can use an integrated support star. We want people to think about how are we going to get help to move forward on our goal. So in the middle, in the middle, in the star, what we would do, okay, that's okay. I can't find the laser. But in the middle, the star, we would write whatever goal it is, you know. And then we would look at 5 areas. And I always tell families, start with personal strengths and assets. So if somebody wants to drive, get their driver's license, you know, have they ever driven? Have they tried taking the test? Does the family have a car that they can drive and learn on? Personal strengths and assets. Experiences they may have had. Then looking at technology. What technology can help them? Well, they can take the test on, they can take a practice test. Maybe they can do some virtual driving and see, if that's something they want. Maybe they can watch YouTube videos about something, I don't know. But I always tell people, don't forget about YouTube videos. Because YouTube videos, you can learn almost everything on a YouTube video. So don't just think about iPad, smartphone, blah, blah, blah. Also think about apps. Are people, maybe some people need relaxation techniques and they use apps for the relaxation. Relationships, who can help them that are not paid? So think about friends, family, acquaintances. I tell people to think about people with ICE, people with information, people with connections, who do you know who might be able to help, and people with experience. Down in the bottom left, community resources. What's in the community that can help people? Well, are there driving schools anymore? I don't know. Okay. It's been a while. Okay, but it could be driving schools. It could be, what else is available? And then that bottom left, eligibility specific, what are people eligible for? I understand there are people who are very specific. They work with people with disabilities to help them get a driver's license. I don't know who they are. Or the waiver, if you have a waiver. What's available through the waiver? But don't just think about disability specific. I tell a lot of staff will say, I have no eligibility supports. And I'm like, do you have a job? Yes. Do you have medical insurance? That's an eligibility specific support. Do you have technology from your workplace? I'm an independent contractor. I have to buy my own laptop. If my computer goes, I'm at the Genius Bar at Apple, or I'm calling the Geek Squad, or I'm calling my nephew and saying, please help me. I have no clue what's going on. Eligibility specific supports may be something related to your culture. I got a scholarship to go to college from the Greek American community in Cleveland. I was eligible because I was Greek American. So don't just think about disability. What's available through your insurance? What's available in your community? Maybe because you live in a certain community, you're eligible for certain things. So somebody needed the job of making sure I knew where the clicker was. I forgot to ask. So remember, we always talk about the person in the context of their family, so we value the family perspective. We talk about the 6 life domains, 6 quality of life areas that we all talk about. I didn't talk about the 3 buckets, but we all have needs. Whenever we have a need that we want to meet, or buying a car, going on vacation, we need information, the blue, discovery and navigation. We need the green, goods and services. We talked about Myrtle Beach. How are you going to get there? You're going to drive? You're going to fly? You're going to stay at a hotel? You're going to stay at an Airbnb? And then connecting and networking, talking to people who have been there. So these are needs we have for everything in our life. Then we talked about the integrated support star, looking not just at what we can get from the system, but personal strengths, technology, other people we know, who do we know that may know somebody, and what's in the community. It's important to have a vision or a trajectory for a good life across the lifespan. That mom of an 18-month-old made my year, actually, and across the lifespan. We have a showcase coming up in Columbus. Please, please, please go to frnohio.org. Go sign up to get notification of webinars we're doing. They're free. Look at our videos. And if you would be so kind as to look at the QR code and give me feedback, I would appreciate it. And are there any other questions? Oh my God. Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. Are you kidding me? And I have this booklet. Yes, I'm just going to give everybody one, right? because whether your child is young or not, you're going to be thinking about transition. These booklets are all for every life stage, and they are available on lifecoursetools.com. There's one for early childhood, school age, transition, adulthood, and aging.
And these can be printed out for all the.
Yeah, they're all free.
This booklet, as well as the school age guide, is it's the last 2 QR codes on your agenda.
Thank you.
Barb gets credit from her organization if you scan the QR code. So if you don't mind doing that. We also have our own QR code with O.P.E.N, just to get some feedback. If there's any presentations that you would like to see specifically, we'd love to get that feedback. If you have a specific question that I can funnel to Barb, I'm happy to do that as well. This was very enlightening. Just seeing a lot of IEPs. The future planning statement, it can be so much more robust, and this is the way to do it. Just getting really great questions to our kiddos and asking them their thoughts in their own words and coming to the table, to the team, and using their words to help guide some of these documents is so helpful. If you have a neurotypical child and they're applying to college, if they're applying to, a job and they have to write little summaries, this is helpful because the writing's already done for them. The ideas are there. It's already curated for them. This is such a great tool to use. I know Barb mentioned the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities a few times and some acronyms like ISP and SA. No, and you explain them. Those are great. If anyone is not connected with the Board of Disabilities for their child and would like more information, please email me. My information is at the bottom of this agenda sheet. I will be happy to walk you through, talk eligibility, and help you get referred into the system if you think that is something that will help get your child additional resources within the community. So hope you learned something very new. Barb, thank you so much for your time and efforts into this presentation. Thank you, everybody.